Welcome to this MANRS Community Meeting for November. My name is Arturo Servín. I'm part of the MANRS Steering Committee. I also work at Google as an interconnection manager for EMEA, and also I do some global work around routing security. So that is why for me it's very important to participate in MANRS, also to make sure that Google does everything that we should do regarding the MANRS ecosystem and all having MANRS in the routing security. Thank you very much for everybody to be here. Thank you very much for the people in APAC for staying a bit late. Also for the people in EMEA that are early, and anyone in between. Also, thank you very much for being here at probably a very inconvenient time for the Americans. So thank you for everybody to be here. One of the topics that I want to talk about is that we have elections a few weeks ago. So let me congratulate to the new people joining, Dima from SID DNS, and also Victor Bolaños for FiberCli or FiberCli loopback. That is also in this session. Thank you for being here. Also a re-election of Tony Tauber from Comcast, that also is one of our co-chairs, along with Nick Hiller from INEX. And also like very thank you very much to Melchor Elmans for Unisys and Musa Stephen Hole from Afrinic, that they were served during 3 years, I think. Like it's our period, probably you should know. So thank you very much for all the work that you did for MANRS. We are really thankful for that. We were in the middle of transition from Internet Society to the Global Cyber Alliance, so we have to do a lot of work. So thank you very much for all that work that you did. As you can see, we have a very packed agenda. We have some updates from the Secretariat that Alejandro is going to present. And later, we are going to have some talks regarding routing security. There are two main topics. One is the barriers to adopt RPKI. We will have a presentation from Internet Society. We have also another presentation from the Georgia Institute of Technology. And later, we have a couple of presentations, one about BGP Watch project, and another regarding the MANRS Plus testbed. So we have a lot to cover. So probably the next one is Alejandro, for you to do the updates from the Secretariat. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe we have Victor here. Maybe he would like to.
Yeah.
He has just been elected. So Victor, yeah, maybe you want to speak, Victor. Sorry that we put you on the spotlight.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Well, I don't have too many words to say because I'm only want to thank you for the confidence that you have put in me, and I will try to do my best.
Thank you very much, Victor. And well, now Alejandro, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Victor, and welcome. We're gonna keep you busy. Arturo knows that, yeah. So it's and we are very happy that you want to thank you and all the people that volunteer, yeah, to step and take to nominate themselves. I always get that wrong. To nominate themselves for the steering committee election. We are very happy that we have 9 participants. So it was a very good election. So let's go to as Arturo was saying, we have a very busy agenda. So my part is the boring one. I would like to try and squeeze it, do it very quickly so that our speakers can have a bit more time to speak, yeah, because we have 4 of them, and well, it can be a bit tight, yeah. So let's not. Okay. So Pablo, since you are or Arturo, if you are co-host, if you don't mind, while I'm speaking, if these people joining, so if you can admit them. I don't know if you know how to do that. If not, I will try to do it myself. Okay, let's kick it off. So MANRS by the numbers. Let's answer a very easy question. How has MANRS evolved since January 2024? That's when GCA took the Secretariat roles. It was the Internet Society and the Global South Alliance. We agreed that we would continue the Secretariat. We've been receiving a lot of support from Internet Society, of course, but now it's the Global South Alliance pushing for the initiative with the help of the steering committee. So let's see how the figures, what has happened in these 2 years, almost 2 years. We started in January 2029, and well, it was the official day kickoff, but we started working a bit earlier, so it's been actually 2 years, I would say now. So first of all, let's celebrate our growth. This is the entire evolution of MANRS since the very beginning, since 2014. It's 100 times the number of participants. It started small with 13 network operators, and now we are close to 1,300. So it's 100 times more. The growth has been significant. The new programs have been added, and as you can see, of course, the more we grow, the more difficult it gets to grow. But now we are, as you can see here, since 2024, we are growing at a rate of approximately 10% a year on average. This year has been, well, these are the figures for the last 2 years, and also by program, you can see that growth by program, network operators, it grows a bit higher than the average. Cloud and IXPs, they grow a bit below the average, and we have the equipment. There you are. We have the equipment vendors that, well, have been stable since the beginning of the program, right? In 6, well, we can grow that figure. But well, it's positive growth. We have the feeling that also by countries, it's global growth. So it's stable, it's growing, keeps on growing, and it's also growing globally. That's one of the most important sides of our work. Is to be truly global. You can see that all RIR regions are represented. You can see that, of course, Brazil is the #1 country, thanks to Nick PR and the involvement of that community. They are the #1, and they are also the #1 in growth. 62 new participants associated from Brazil in the last 2 years. United States, the second country, and also the second country in growth in these last 2 years. But we also have people from Germany, United Kingdom, Netherlands, China, and Hong Kong. A lot of them also, and well, European countries, UK, and different European countries, and also a lot of African countries. They don't show in this top 10, but as you can see, there's lots. Africa is a massive continent, and there's been participants from all over the continent, all over the regions of the continent. So we are very happy about that. I think it's a good sign of the health of the initiative. If we focus on 2025, that's what I wanted to say. It's kind of slowing a bit, 6.8, but we shouldn't take these figures like something written on stone, because there are waves of new participants. There's also admin work and all that, but the important thing is that it keeps on growing, and we're gonna hit a figure that is probably around 10% by the end of the year, a bit less than that, but last year it was a bit over, so more or less the average is about 10%. So this is the idea. But as I say here, this growth has been mostly organic. I need a coffee today. I'm going to say habit because I'm still waking up. I'm landing mentally on this. This growth has been mostly organic, by the strength of the own initiative, by people that bring their peers and partners, people that hear about the initiative. For next year, we want to start growing with a plan, more with a bit more of organization, so that we can ensure that the growth figures go a bit higher at 10%. Hopefully, we will work on that. But in the meantime, we would like, as we always do with our newsletter, we like to encourage everybody to spread the word, to bring clients and peers into MANRS. That's probably the best way to reach all those network operators that we cannot reach from our places. We want to grow in countries where we are not present, and that's very important. Since MANRS is present all over the world, spreading the word is very important. So, and remember that, and the MANRS will not be over, will not be done until we get a significant number of participants. And it's a question of bringing more and more people. So This was in terms of participation, but how is the state of routing security? We have a good indicator there, which is the observatory. Yeah, MANRS Observatory is probably one of the best sources of information about the state of routing security, thanks to our data contributors and to the people that have built the observatory. And these were the indicators for 2023, December 2023. That's when GCA took over. Yeah, and I'm going through the achievements of the evolution in the last 2 years. Yeah, to see that or to check if MANRS is evolving positively or not. I think so. I think it's evolving positively. So these are the key indicators on route security as shown on our observatory for December 2023. This is October 2025, the latest data available because we're halfway in November. And this is the evolution of those key indicators. Yeah. In terms of incidents, the number has been reduced by 53%. Culprits, those causing the incidents, it's also the number has also been reduced 29%. So we moved from 423 to 299. IRRs are growing. They were already high, but they are growing, plus 1.4%. RPKI, it's one of the biggest achievements, collective achievements. It's not. It's definitely a very positive trend. The valid RPKIs have grown by 22%. Later today in the session, we're going to have some presentations on the difficulties and challenges for RPKIs. Root origin validation has also grown significantly. From the ROV-based filtering rate has moved from 4.5 to 8.2. Yeah, let's see if we continue the trend about the incidents. So this is the change in the last 2 years. Let's focus also on MANRS readiness. That's the other. We have 2 key sets of indicators in the MANRS Observatory, and first one was the state of routing security, and now it's the MANRS readiness. These were the figures for December 2023. These are the figures now. They were already high, as you can see, in December 2023, and they're still. So we continued most of in terms of filtering anti-spoofing. It's been flat, still positive. In coordination, it's a bit higher. IRR a bit higher, but where we see the biggest improvement is in routing information, RPKI. Yep, that's plus 23.1%. As you, yeah, from 39% to 48%. Yeah, so it's growing and it's moving. So those are positive trends. RPKI and ROV stand out as the indicators. That's very clear. We cannot say that it's only because of MANRS, but we can say that MANRS is definitely playing a role, yeah, because MANRS keeps on growing and there's a high level of awareness that is bringing some incentives to keep on doing the good work, yeah. And also, I wanted to mention, because this was fresh, this was presented last week, no, 31st of October, almost last week. This is the last item here. As you can see, European Union. Here you have a link. So if anybody wants the slides, you can have them. Just ask for them, and we'll share them with you. And here you have a link to the report that was published by the European Commission, the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. They've been checking the evolution of MANRS. I think they do it twice a year. So the latest one is available, and if you are curious enough, you can see how it changes. Yeah. The idea is to observe the evolution of routing security and through MANRS in the European Union, and to see how our network operators and IXPs, they are really interested in IXPs, they keep on implementing MANRS and doing those measures. Yeah. So if you want some external source, because they also use their own resources to build this report, you can just check these reports. Yeah. You have the link here to the latest one, but you can, if you play a bit with the index, you can find the other reports easily. So this is in terms of, we went through participation, which was, it's growing about 10% a year. Also there is positive trends in terms of the evolution of the state of routing security in the world, especially around RPKI and ROVs. And now let's see how busy we've been in the last years. Yeah, this was 2024, first year of GCA. Those are the countries that we visited in real life or virtually, because sometimes, of course, we cannot do all this, but we also participate in a lot of online events. In this we include the Secretariat and members of the steering committee. We keep track of those. You can see it through the newsletter. And this was 2024. you can see 18 countries, which is cool. But if you go to 2025, it was even busier. Yeah, and we've been talking a lot in the Americas. Very good news. Mexico, I was just talking last week in Mexico. Unfortunately, in a virtual manner, accepting people. And but yeah, the Brazil, of course. So it's growing, and part of the growth is like being very present. Yeah, so we would like to encourage everybody to speak, find speaking opportunities, to especially in those places where we cannot reach. Yeah, we have limited resources, but we would like to at least every year to cover approximately 20 countries in terms of presence, and cover, that's very important, all RIR regions. Yeah. Here, well, this year it was the Americas. Lacnic can add in, but let me see. But yeah, also RIPE and Afrinic and APNIC. Yeah, so we need your help there. And also very importantly, we've been talking in forums that are not specifically connected with routing security. Yeah, that's very important. We were, Andre and Nick, one of our steering committee members, they were presenting for officials in the European Commission, officials and cybersecurity experts in the European Commission through EU Cybernet. Pablo, my colleague, is somewhere here. He was speaking in the NOC of Myanmar, small presentation. So those activities, training, and are also very, very important for that to spread the word. Yeah, about MANRS. You have in this link, you can check our newsletter, and you can see what we've been up in the last 2 years. So talking about the newsletter, we also grow in terms of visibility through social media and other platforms. I know some people don't like LinkedIn that much. I don't like it much myself because it's like the new Facebook, but it's a good way of keeping track of engagement and of achieving engagement. Yeah, and in that sense, if you check the number of followers of the initiative, now it's over 3,300, and with an annual growth of plus 11.2%, it means that, well, we are getting traction there too, and that's very, very important in terms of visibility. The newsletter is also working well. It's got almost 1,500 subscribers now at this moment, with an annual growth of plus 15%, which is higher than the growth in participants. Yeah, we're also present in Blue Sky, Facebook. There we've lost. I know we've gained. I thought we had lost some users. X and YouTube. Yeah, so it's well. Yeah. Facebook we lost for followers. Anyway, the biggest platform is still LinkedIn. The YouTube channel is growing slowly also, and at this moment, LinkedIn and X are where we have our biggest footprint. Of course, we also have the blog. We are always open for new contributions. So if you have something to share with the community, just contact us. We can have an editorial guideline, which is very simple to follow and get published. We have our quarterly newsletter that is distributed through the mail list, but also through LinkedIn. And yeah, please be active. That's what we want. Yeah, because this is a community effort. And yeah, basically here, presence, we are very active. We try to cover all RIR regions. That's very important for us. And yes, and one important indicator of this activity is the participation in the voting process that we had in the last years. Yeah, we had 2 elections for the steering committee with, I think we had 8 volunteers, 8 people nominated themselves last year. This year it's been 9. The turnout has been also very higher compared with previous years. And also we had the voting for the new charter, which was also, we had good turnout. Yeah. So I think we want to believe that this is partially because of the efforts we do on the ground. Yeah. So we want to continue doing those efforts, and we also want your help for that. Yeah. Especially in terms of stepping out. Yeah. To become MANRS steering committee members, to speak, to identify speaking opportunities and all that. Yeah, that's very important. So we need everybody's participation there. We have somebody joining. Okay. Alessandro. Buongiorno, Alessandro. So yes, I'm almost done. So yes, this is important. Now we covered the last 2 years. Now let's see what we're gonna do in the next years. Yeah, what the plans are. So 2024 was a year of transition. Yeah, MANRS came. The Secretariat of MANRS came to the Global Sub Alliance from the Internet Society. It was a big thing for us. We are a small organization, and well, first year was adapting. Trying to keep things running, and I think we succeeded. Yeah, 2025 has been a year of transformation, collective transformation from the perspective of the community. We are working, getting ready for the future. Yeah, we approved the MDP, the MANRS development process, which is a standardization process, which will guide the future evolution of the initiative. Thank you everybody for participating in that, in the review of the documents, the MDP proposal. We used the MDP for the first time to approve and update a new charter, which was necessary because it had gone old. It had been 5 years, I think, if I'm not wrong, but now we have a new charter that reflects the reality of the initiative, and I think it's going to be useful for future growth. And we also had lots of developments in the MANRS Plus working group. Yeah, we're going to get a presentation from Lisa and Moritz in a while about it. Yeah. MANRS Plus is now it was a small working group. It's we would like to push it into a new program, enterprise program, that would be focused on protecting the enterprise networks and edge networks. And in that sense, if you want to do some research, you can explore the MANRS Plus section in the website, and you see the latest updates on the matrix, and we're building there. So as I was saying before, growth and uptake have kept they've been positive. Yeah, they've been growing, evolving positively, but that growth has been mostly organic. We would like to intervene there. We want to be more active in pushing, for that growth. And for that, and as we're trying to build the future for the initiative, we would like to focus on 4 areas of action, to push for this growth. First of all is the standardization and transparency. We implemented the MDP, MANRS development process, that's going to guide the evolution of everything. Now we are working on bringing all the actions into that process, so that actions can work as standards, not just as piece of agreement as it is now. So we want to do it across all 4 programs. Every program has their own actions, and we want to run the MDP process through all of them. The second one is the geography, the second vector. We want to be present, porosity in different parts of the world where we cannot reach. And for that, we will need the MANRS champions, ambassadors, you name them. That program was present in the last years. We posted when the transition started, but we want to reactivate that. Yeah, that's something we are currently working on, some proposals, and we want to share them with you as soon as they are ready. Yeah, but we are open for thoughts, for ideas, insights. Some of you were champions or ambassadors in the past. So if you would like to share your thoughts or ideas, please contact us or use the mailing list for that. Yeah, it's an important. It's the only way we're gonna be able to reach further. Yeah, and that's gonna be very important. We also want to go for increased engagement with local and regional actors. I just came from I was saying that I was speaking last week for a group of network operators and CERT operators in Yucatan, Mexico, thanks to LACNIC. So we want those opportunities, and we are engaging actively with LACNIC, with AREN, with APNIC, and all the RIRs. I'm missing one. AFRINIC, not yet, but we are now that they have a new board, we want to also engage with them actively. And the idea is to reach alliances, agreements, partnerships with them, and try to be more present. In terms of supply chains protection, that's the third vector. We are considering about running a new program, which would be for edge networks and for the protection of supply chains. It's a question of procurement, and well, if you're aware of the work of the MANRS Plus initiatives, like MANRS on steroids, we call it. It's an interesting approach, and it's something that we are currently exploring. Yeah, it's in a very preliminary stage, but we'll keep you informed on that. And the last one is the I don't know if you've seen the blog. We just published something yesterday, and it's well, we want to start a sponsoring campaign, yeah, to ensure sustainability for the initiative. The idea for this is it's something new, so I would really appreciate if you could share comments or ideas or thoughts about it, if not now, through the main list. But it's the best way we have, the best way we think we can make the initiative grow, yeah, while keeping it free, because the main principle for this sponsoring campaign is to keep it free for all participants. So anybody that would like to become a MANRS participant should be able to do it for free. But the costs of running this are getting higher, because the bigger it gets, the more costs it generates, and we need some financial support to keep it fun. Yeah, it's also part of the commitments between Internet Society and Clouds Alliance to. Now we have support from Internet Society, but that's we have to make sure that sustainability is guaranteed. Yeah. So what we've done is we've just presented. Yeah. So you have it on. I will share it over the mailing list also, so that people can react and can share their insights. We would really appreciate if we could have a debate on this, because it's something completely new. But this is more or less the idea. It's a question of visibility. It's based on standards that you have seen in other places of the internet. And the idea is to, well, to offer everybody the opportunity to sponsor the initiative if they want. Yeah, there's going to be annual campaigns. There is no requirement to participate. So all participants can remain participants. And they don't need to sponsor the initiative. But those who want to sponsor it, they will have a chance now. We have 6 tiers that go from $1,500 a year, which is designed also to bring smaller participants, to give them an incentive to gain visibility and show together with bigger names. We would like to have in our list of sponsors also smaller network operators. So we don't want to have only big names, because we believe this is a community effort. So we'd like to have smaller network operators being very proud of being sponsoring MANRS. And well, the tiers go all the way up to $250,000. I don't know if anybody's going to offer that, but we're going to be there, and that will be the top tier. And the idea is to, well, the more you pay, the more visibility you get. But in principle, the idea is to show support for the growth of the initiative. Yeah, and very, very, very important to keep it free for those who don't want to pay, or don't. So this is why we say here from nothing to 250,000. It's very important. So stand out, make your commitment visible, become a sponsor. Yeah, I would like to encourage you if you are open to that. Yeah, and if you can't, and you know of somebody that would be interested, please help us spread the word, as I was saying all the time during my session. Here you have the link to the sponsoring campaign. We will share it over the mailing list, and that's my part. I think I managed. Yeah, okay, good. Right on time. So ready for questions or?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any question for Alejandro. Looks like everything is clear.
No, that's good. That's good. So if, as I said, I will share this proposal over the mailing list. So if somebody wants to speak out there, they're more than welcome. So Arturo, I think we can gain a bit more of time for the slides. Yeah. So the presentations of our guest speakers. So
yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I was making some calculations that initially we have like 10 minutes per presentation. So right now I think like we can extend maybe 15, and also with questions, like we can even be on time. So we have 4 more presentations. We have 2 main blocks. One is the barriers to adopt RPKI, and the others are more general about some other topics related to routing security. So we have the first presentation. Let's, if we can go to the next slide, is from, let's see if I can see it here. Oh, I lost it in my screen. So we have Amreesh Phokeer from Internet Society. Amreesh is going to talk about RPKI synchronization, delay in relying party synchronization. So I don't know, Amreesh, if you are ready. And
I don't see him now. I don't see him. That's a problem.
Okay.
I made him aware. Let's move to the second one if you want.
Yep,
and I will contact
yeah, perfect.
Yep, let's do
the
that.
Next one is Cecilia.
And she's not here either.
Oh, he's not here. Yeah, I was looking at Cecilia to start. It was around. So let's go to the second part of the session. That is the insight into routing security. So I don't know if Changkik Ann is around. I think he or she is.
She is here. Yeah, she's ready to speak.
Perfect. Okay. So the presentation is the BGP Watch project by Changkik Ann from the China Education and Research Network, CERNET. So yeah, the floor is yours.
Would you like to present from your you want to present from your computer, no?
I guess
You're
so.
mute.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes,
I would like
can see you there.
I would like to go straight to the demonstration. May I share my screen?
Yep, go ahead.
Now I think there is something in the screen.
Now we can hear you.
Yes.
Camera, yeah.
So
it works. Perfect.
It works. Yeah. I will focus on introduce 4 main functions of the platform. That's anomaly, dashboard, routing path, and subscript. For anomaly, we have 3 kinds of anomaly. That's prefix anomaly, and path anomaly, and root anomaly. For prefix anomaly, we mainly for prefix anomaly, it's based on a machine learning based algorithm. The features used include information from RPKI, the topology, the edge behavior, and many features. And for the result, we show the basic event information, who is the victim, who is the attacker, and the prefix that are hijacked. Also, we evaluate the impact range and the level. And we also check it through the data plane probing. So for some, we do the probing, and for some, we get some result. It's not a hijack, or it's a low possible hijack. For each event, we can go to the detail. For the detail, we can see more information, more features information, the prefix information. And also, this is the data plane detection result for we selected several targets and we do probing. And for each probing, we probe it from several S. Some S are affected by the hijack. So we can see the path from the writing path, writing tree. Yeah, we selected several probing from this S, and we calculated the correlation. So if the correlation is low, we infer it's not a hijacking. It's good. It's good. Yeah, this is the main for the prefix anomaly. For path anomaly, the main idea is that for an S, its writing tree is most time is stable. When it changed, the change should be minor. If there is a larger deviation from the normal status, it may be induced as a hijacking. So we also evaluate the level and the input range, and we can see the detailed information. yeah, we can see just see one, and we can see the writing tree. This is the writing tree after the hijacking event, and before the event, the writing tree is such. So we can see that some new paths, some new link are announced. Yes, and it's deviated from the normal, from many behavior. We introduce this result, and also we display the website here in the prefix. For root leak anomaly, we mainly based on the prefix or the link that's transmitted through a path. It's in normal distribution. If it's mainly deviate from the normal distribution, it will be deduced as a leak event. We can see the detailed information. We can see the leak, the S that may be leak, and the normal prefix traverse it, and the leaked prefix traverse it. Also, we can see the path information. This is anomaly. For dashboard, our objective is to provide tools for operators, provide key information to them. This is an S number. You can see the anomaly information here, trend here, and the prefix count, it may change. For each change, you can click this and you can see the detailed change information. And V6, for V6 and peers information, customer or provider or peer count, the trend each day is a change, and the information is with ROA and who is, if it match or not found, and prefix length distribution, and some bulk information for V4 and V6. For the detail, you can check the detail information for the bulk information. And also you can click this address. You can get the IP. Can you still see my screen? I'm not sure if I change. If you can still hear me, see my screen.
We can see you, and we can hear you and see your screen.
Okay. This is a dashboard. We can see for each dashboard, we can see the prefix and all the detailed information. Also, we can see the peers information for S. This is the key peers, the provider, peer, and customer. In each line, you can see the prefix number you export to them and you import from them. And also this is all the neighbor information you can search them. Also, you can see IPv6 peer information. For the routing path information, this is a forward routing information. You can input a prefix or S number here, such as I think I can input an S number, such as S number. You can see it here. We can see that for this destination, this data SN, it has many prefix, but it has several paths to this destination from this S. We can click each and to see that the traffic are sent from different paths. And it's interesting These two are all in ring, but some paths they are traversed through through merchant. Yeah, this is merchant path. So we think this is useful for operators. They can see how their traffic are sent to the destination, why they can analyze why they go through different paths, and they can check if this is matched with their initiative. Yeah, this is the forward routing. Also, you can see the reverse routing paths. For each prefix, you enter a prefix here, and you can see all the S. You can click an S or input an S number here, and you can get the path from this SN to this destination prefix. And also here is a detailed routing path information. Also, you can check two prefixes, the forwarding path and the reverse path. This is just an example. We can see that the forwarding path, these two green node, they go through that green node. But for the reverse part, they go through this blue path. Also, you can see from this map. Also, we also monitor the route jitter. We can see for some prefix that we get all the advertisement from time to time. Each point is a 5 minutes block. For each 5 minutes, we can get many advertisement and the routing paths are changed. And we can change another S. For this one, we can see that it's changing from one path to another path and to another path. So the routing paths are changed from continually. We don't know what caused this. Recently, we read a paper that discussing why this frequently looping or changing, flapping situation may be caused. Also, we can see some the daily book information. We can check the book information, the curve part, the curve recently, and the today information for the, we can see the most, which one broadcasts the most book. And also we can see all the detailed information. We can click one and see how about the broadcast. This is a Bogan prefix, but it is broadcast worldwide. We don't know why. We think all providers should be more responsible for their broadcast, for their prefix advertisement. And finally, I will like to show the subscript functions. Operators, they can subscribe several as they are interested, and also they can export the information, main weekly report, get some weekly report or do some setting. And for the as you subscribed, you can see the prefix change, peer change, and you can define some paths you want to monitor, because when you do some configuration change, you want to monitor the path change. Also, you can see the anomaly information for this as you subscribed in one page. We think this is useful. And also we have menus, all the how to use the menu, also the API. You can use the API and to get data and embed it in your platform, in your system. This is mainly the functions. So thank you for having me here. So any suggestions from you? We are continually updating the platform. If you encounter some problems or there are maybe some errors, just email us.
Maybe you want to share your contact details or the link to the initiative on over the chat so that people can share the comments.
You want me?
If you want to share your contact detail or the project's contact details or the URL of the project on the chat, people can.
Oh, okay. I will.
It can be easy.
Yeah, for anybody in the session, if you want to see the tool, just Google BGP Watch, because I was was doing while you were presenting. I have some questions, but the first one is a comment. Fantastic! It's a great tool. It's like I start looking around. I stop it because I wanted to pay attention with your presentation. But what I saw in my quick review and also from your presentation, it looks very nice. It's like every month, MANRS send us an email saying, "Hey, this is the prefixes that you leak, or there are some problems." So there is a report. Normally at Google, we try to be very tidy and we shouldn't have anything there. Normally we do it because our production network, we keep everything under control, but we have also the Google Cloud and we have customers that they start being customers and they stop being customers, and then the ROAS get expired, and so we get the notification for MANRS, and for me it's okay, what is going on? So I was using RIPE-RIS and RRR Explorer and some other tools, and sometimes it's kind of challenging to find out what happened with a prefix, and I think that yours has a very good potential to help for past event and see, hey, what is happening with this prefix, or what is going on right now with the prefix. So I have a few questions, but I don't know if anybody in the conference has any other questions. So I will give opportunity for anybody to ask you questions. If anybody wants to ask. Well, if not, I have a question. What are your sources? It's I imagine that you use route views or RIPE-RIS. What are your sources for BGP? And also, how do you infer that it's an attack or a leak? Are you using internet routing registries, or are you using RPKI? Are you using ASNs to figure out, oh, this ASN shouldn't be announcing this prefix to the internet? How is the methodology that you use, your sources, and the methodology that you're using to infer that it's an attack or a leak?
Yes, many information are used, almost include all the route information from route views, RIS, and also some from our partners and R and RPKI, many information. And we use some machine learning methods in the prefix hijacking detection. We use many features to training the method. And for the path hijacking, the main idea is that, do you want me to share my presentation? I have some slides. And main idea is that the routing tree is most times the routing tree is stable. It won't change largely. If there is a huge change, and we will deduct it. We combine many features. This is a main feature. The routing tree changed largely, and combined with other features, we deduced it as a hijacking. I think there is always a trade-off between recall and precision, because we all know that the internet is very complex. We can make sure all the events are real events, but our motivation is that we can provide more information to the operators. Maybe they can check, they know how their prefixes are used. They know who is their partner. Maybe they share their prefix with others, but we don't know. But we give them this information. We tell them, oh, you should pay attention. You should check this. This maybe this helpful to our community. Yeah. Is that clear? Is it clear?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Very good. Very. I assuming that you were doing some part of that, and also your sources. I just wanted to check because one of the things that is like, yeah, we want to promote your tool, and probably some people are going to ask, oh, how do they do it? So like, just to have an answer, and also probably I will pass your contact to some people so they have questions about it, because I think it's a great tool. It's like the next step that we have with the other tools. So it's very interesting. I'm gonna start like looking around and see what is going on with our network. Hopefully, some other people also will start like looking at it and then send you questions about how it is, and maybe even suggestions on how you to improve or change or add to the interface, because I think it's great. Yeah, that is my comment. Alejandro, I think that you have a question or your hand raised.
Yes, that's something I asked when we met for the first time, and I think it's important for the audience. You mentioned the APNIC Foundation, and we were asking about the sustainability of this. If it was going to be a one-time project, or if you're planning to make it last for the future. Yeah. So please, would you like to elaborate on that?
I think we have a team. We have several PhD students, and we have a software engineer, and we, as Tsinghua and Cernet, we are operating IS. We are ISP. So we have the funds ourselves. We have the funds to support the project. For the APNIC Foundation, it's mainly for our collaboration with our partners, because we need to support our partners to the discussion, to take part in the discussion, to take part in some training, all this. So we think that sustainability, there is no problem. Okay.
That's great news. Yeah, that's what I wanted. So it's a resource that will stay for the community. Yeah, we are also now talking about getting a blog post. So some report on the initiative on the MANRS blog post, and the MANRS blog. Sorry, my dog keeps on joining the meetings, and also we are finding ways of trying to offer this for the community. Yeah, to explore the possibility of integrating or doing that. Yeah, the conversation have started. Yeah, so I hope we can have good news.
Yes.
So that's great.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time to share this with us. As I said, it's a great tool and also great work. And thank you very much for also helping us to try to keep the internet clean of routing attacks. So thank you very much for your time for the presentation.
Thank you. We have the same initiative. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
So we are moving to the next presentation. This is about the MANRS Plus.
Sorry, Arturo, we have Cecilia. If you want to.
Oh, we have okay because I checked.
She's joining from the US. It's very early.
Yeah, perfect. So we go ahead because it's in the middle of the night for Cecilia.
Cecilia.
Cecilia, thank you very much for being here. Cecilia, she's a professor in Georgia Tech. She's a very good ally in the routing security because she's doing a great work of research in the topic. Also, she's in the United States, so thank you very much for being so late, well, so early for you, or so late, depending, yeah. So thank you very much for being here. The topic that we were talking about, Cecilia, was the RPKI adoption and the barriers that they have. So she's preparing a special presentation because she originally has 2 different presentations. So she's planned to do something for us. So also thank you very much. So Cecilia, thank you for being here, and yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Arturo and Alejandro. So I'm Cecilia Tester. I'm an assistant professor at Georgia Tech, and I'm happy to share with you some of our recent research results on different studies that we're doing related to RPKI adoption. So at this point, with RPKI that's been around and it's been standardized for more than 10 years, there is consensus of the benefits that adopting RPKI with the root origin authorization and root origin validation brings to the internet security. And this consensus come from industry. And here we can see, I put you a little bit distracting snippets from different parts of industry, but also from government. So the 2 at the left, there's one from the Dutch government that is supporting RPKI in their networks, and also another push from the FCC in the US to increase adoption of RPKI in the US networks. So by now, there is like a large consensus that this is happening. So we would expect that adoption would keep on increasing, maybe at a faster pace, because now it's a known technology, or much more known than what it used to be, and that adoption would start getting easier. However, it's not clear that adoption is much easier, and that at the rate that the adoption is happening, either on the root origin authorization, on the root origin validation side, we're going to reach very quickly high levels of adoption. So my research looks into these questions of how can we support RPKI adoption to really reach high levels of adoption. And for that, we try to look at what are the barriers, what are things that are preventing or limiting or making adoption more difficult. But also, again, because this is it's been around for a while, it means that many networks have adopted it. So what approaches have been successful and what has been helpful for networks in their adoption journey. And finally, combining those 2, what can be targeted efforts so that we can support RPKI adoption to gain higher levels. So the way that I've been tackling this, it's combining qualitative and quantitative methodologies. So I've been leading a user study of network operators, where we've have semi-structured interviews with network operators, with the people that have been in charge of deciding how RPKI, if at all, is going to be implemented for their organization. So these are the people that decide how it gets integrated within their network operation, how is the architecture that manages it all on the ROA or ROV side. And I've had the chance to interview many of them, and these have been like very in-depth interviews, usually going well over 1 hour per person. And I've also done a longitudinal measurement study, combining all the most user sources between BGP, WHOIS, delegation data, and RIR data, to have a longitudinal view and starting to understand what type of prefixes and organization are issuing RPKI records, and what are the ones that are not issuing RPKI records, to try to get this understanding. And so at a very quick, like something that came out very quickly from this is that RPKI adoption is not at all uniform. Even if we can say, oh, we're kind of reaching maybe 50% adoption or passing 50% adoption on the ROA side, that is absolutely not uniform. We can very quickly see a lot of difference depending on the region, on the size of networks, on the type of networks, and on the complexity of the address space that is being protected by RPKI. So extremes will be very small networks that are from non-internet related businesses, like non-ISPs. These networks tend to have very low participation in RPKI. And also networks that have been delegated address space a long time ago, or have pieces of address space that have some very complex delegation. There also we see very low adoption of RPKI. But even if in those cases we see low adoption, we still in most of the cases by now see some organizations that under those conditions have still adopted RPKI. So I've been wondering a lot about what are really these barriers and how, what we can do with it. And combining both studies, we have come to realize that there are 4 key areas that are really relevant for RPKI adoption. And I'll go through them quickly here. So first of all, we have IP resource management. And RPKI is intrinsically linked to IP resource management. In hindsight, it may appear kind of obvious because RIR are the one that delegate the address space and they are the trust anchor for RPKI. But more than that, all the key distribution for the certificate issuance for RPKI and most of the signing and hosting is done and managed through the IP management portal of IRR. So RPKI inherits any of the challenges with IP management. And I'll touch upon some of those using quotes from the interviews. Second, awareness and training play a critical role in IPKI adoption. And this again is kind of evident as with any new technology. However, for RPKI, the challenge is that this requirement is really much more widespread than what current training challenges allow it. And that it also requires knowledge from many different domains. So even for networking experts, it's not clear that they would be easily be very knowledgeable in RPKI. Third, software tools are really critical to integrate RPKI with network operations. Even if the RIRs in the past few years have done put out significant tools to allow for this, with, for example, API access to issue certificates and get the and then fetch them, it still requires a lot of in-house development, and that takes a lot of time. And also, there are many times the sensation that every network is kind of reinventing the wheel in designing some of these tools that they need internally to operate, to connect with the RIR's infrastructure, and also to decide on how that implementation needs to happen to be integrated with their network operation. And finally, given RPKI can really impact routing, tools for debugging to figure out what happened when a new ROA is created and that things went out as expected, or if things went wrong or are unexpected, they are really needed for the decision-making during RPKI implementation and also for RPKI continual operation. Because, for example, something that we actually do see in both cases, ROA and ROV, that there are organizations that adopted them. So they issue ROAs or they were doing ROV and then they went back and they either stopped or removed the ROAs or stopped doing ROV. So it's a constant decision to keep on doing RPKI. So for example, to give you one example of how RPKI and IP research management are intrinsically related, it came out a lot in the interviews that well, IP research management requires record keeping. And as the internet has evolved and its IP allocation has evolved, there's a challenge here with the poor record keeping. And this is not only extended to the IP, which is actually needed. So to issue RPKI ROA, you really need to know which are your resources. And even that can be a challenge for certain networks. But the poor record keeping extends to the whole RPKI account. So it's like even the login of the account, the credentials of the account. There are many organizations that may have lost them, and they would need to recover them to be able to do RPKI, and this is already a barrier for some of them. in the talking about the awareness or training, it did came out a lot in the interviews because the people that we interviewed were really the key people in their institution during RPKI. They not only were responsible on the technical side on deciding what to do, but a lot of them had a huge burden on making their organization and the different people they interacted with aware and trained in RPKI. So this quote came from one of these people saying like, well, it turns out that if you're an expert in router, it doesn't mean you're familiar with RPKI. And it turns out that the skills or the domain knowledge for RPKI is very different from other traditional expertise in networking, and that makes it a little bit more challenging. And that is for the networking people, but RPKI, because it needs to be integrated with the operation of the network, it actually touches upon many different profiles within this organization. And a lot of the people that are in charge of doing RPKI, they ended up spending significant amount of time educating different parts of the organization, such as this quote here with this person that spent a lot of time educating the upper management to get their buy-in. And finally, there's a bunch of organizations that have address space, that they hold the address space. And therefore, if we want those organizations to use RPKI for their IP resources, those the people in those organizations need to become aware and have training in RPKI. And the challenge is they can be not at all related or have no main business that is related to the internet. So these people usually don't even know what NANOG is and don't participate in the traditional NANOG channels. And some of the networks that provide connectivity to them, they have realized this and said, this is really a challenge because how do we make them aware of NANOG, of other channels traditional in the networking community? And some of them can be very small. So there's this quote that we got, like, how do you reach out to just bait tackle internet service? That can be a very small organization. Okay, so in the interest of time, I am not gonna be able to grab some more quotes for the other two things from the interviews, but in the slides that I shared, you will have the links to the papers that discuss those quotes in more detail. And but I'll tackle this other point from more of the measurement perspective. And for that, I'm gonna start by looking at an example. Oh, by the way, I forgot. We argue in this paper that also in these key 4 areas, something that also came up through the interviews is that actually RIRs have a pivotal role to play in each of them. And again, I invite you to look at the paper for that. So let me walk you through an example of what happens during ROA planning that it can be more complicated than initially we thought. So let's say we have this prefix and it's being originated in BGP by this AS. So we would imagine a ROA that has this prefix as this is the prefix and then the other AS as the origin AS. So first we need to think of which organization can issue the ROA, because that is the organization that eventually is going to have the key that enables the ROA assignment. So in this case is one organization, Allstream Business. But then the question is, because the moment that that ROA is issued, any prefix that is covered by that ROA will be considered to be in RPKI and needs to have a ROA if there are different origins. So then the question is whether there are more specific prefixes being routed for that prefix. And it turns out that there are 2 other prefixes that sometimes may appear with different origin. So already if there are different origin, it means that for those prefixes, there's gonna be needed different ROAs because a ROA can only have one AS origin. So already in this case, if we would like to cover that first prefix, the /20 with a ROA, we will need 3 ROAs in order to prevent disruption to the routing of the other prefixes. But then again, we have the question is, are there other organizations involved? Because those part of the reason that those routes exist many times is because they are for a given customer or from a sub-delegation of that address space. And it turns out that this is also another organization. So here you can quickly see that this ROA planning became much more complex because here we have organizations that are going to have to coordinate when they're doing this and there needs to be some thinking into, okay, which are the routes that we need to include, which ones maybe need to issue a ROA first, and then the other ROAs, and who will have the key to issue the ROAs for these different routes. And this actually comes up a lot also in the interviews, being a lot of people thought this was a very quick and easy process, and down the road they figured out that it was much more complex than they expected. So to support this, in our study, we come up with a framework for issuing ROAs, which we actually designed doing some back and forth with network operators and the different RIRs to make sure that we cover all the different types of questions that can guide the ROA planning in a smooth way for the organization. And I'm not gonna start getting into this framework, but you can look at it in it's published on the paper. But this framework, to answer the different questions that are more or less includes the one that I was showing to you, it actually requires data to start answering those questions. So to support that, we shared the data that we've collected together and put together between the different sources in publicly available, making a publicly available dashboard for our database that we call our RPKI Ready, where you can search for prefixes, and the platform is going to give you relevant information that can inform the ROA planning. And here I'm putting out again the same information that we saw in the ROA planning that I did just a few slides before. You can see all that information here in this platform. And for now, we've made the whole database available already in the GitHub, not through this nice interface. We have part of it accessible through the interface. We're in the process of making it work with this large database, but you have all the information of the database. It's already been published. It's a data set that is published. So you can download the database and have all this information. And also we also use that information to recommend how you should, a way that you could issue the ROAs that takes into account all the different details of the different routes that we found that have been routed, and the different prefixes. So we hope that this can be a way to make it easier for certain of the networks to start issuing the ROAs. So then on the research, what we do is that now that we have all this information for these different prefixes, we also study it at large to understand for the prefixes that are currently not in RPKI, what would be the effort to get them into RPKI? And now I'm going to present to you the breakdown that we have for IPv4 prefixes. We also do it for IPv6 prefixes. So first thing that we see is like this 100% here is all the prefixes in IPv4 that are routed that are not covered by RPKI. And we immediately see like a big thing that can impact a lot the adoption of RPKI is that about 30%, so 27.2% of these prefixes, they are not in the cryptographic tree of RPKI. So in the trees that they have the RIRs, in the research certificates where they're listed all the researchers for which there are keys or a sequence of keys that can then issue the ROAs, there's pieces of the address space that are simply not there. And we look into more detail of what this type of address space is. And indeed, we find a lot of it that is legacy address space, and that is a well-known issue. But we also find some of the address space that is not legacy. And in communication with the RIRs, what we found out is that for some of the RIRs, for the organizations to have their address space in RPKI, there is an opt-in that they need to do, like they need to check into the portal. And only once they check into the portal in their account, that address space then is listed in the research certificates for that tree. And here there are organizations that have not checked that. So in general, all of these prefixes are going to have quite a bit of a burden to be part of RPKI, because either there are some policy decision of the institution that decided we're not doing RPKI, so they didn't even check that in their RIR portal, or there are organizations that are like completely unaware of RPKI. So by this point, they still haven't checked that in their portal, or that there are some legal issues that have prevented them from signing agreements with the RIRs, and that's why their address space is not in RPKI. Now, on the more positive side, when we look at the pieces of address space that are in the RPKI tree, and then we try to, a lot of them still have relatively simple routing. So on the routing part, is not very complex on how many routes are sub-prefixes are routed. And then we also look at how many of those have reassigned and have redelegations that may also make it more complicated. And we see that a little bit less than 50% of the ROAs in IPv4 that are of the prefixes that are not covered are in this case, where it would be relatively easy to issue RPKI records. So then we go and look in more detail, what are the organizations that hold that address space? And what does happen here that for the address space that is currently not covered, well, it turns out that a big chunk of this part are organizations that have never issued any RPKI record. And here we find a lot of the small organizations, the organizations that are non-ISPs. So even if the issuing RPKI record would be relatively simple on more of the technical perspective on how to plan the ROAS, these are organizations that can be really out of the system. So it could be that they're not very aware of how to do this. So it still could be a challenge, even if it's easy to get those prefixes in RPKI. So then if we follow like all of from the prefixes that are currently not covered, we do find that there's about a 20% that could be a relatively easy case. And of course, there are other things that network need to consider before issuing the ROAS. But with this, our conclusion is that reaching high levels of adoption is going to require support. It's not going to happen just continuing and waiting it to happen if there is no more support. And my PhD student that presented some of this work recently in some of the conferences, he came out with this graph where our expectation is that by now the road to RPKI should be an easy one. Well, it turns out that it's kind of much more complicated and there's a lot of bump in the road. So based on our research, the recommendation for that is that to support RPKI, really is needed new channels for awareness or training that they can reach out not only the networking people, but all the other people that need to become aware of RPKI so that adoption actually really happens. We also recommend more support in software tools for RPKI so that networks don't need or feel like they need to reinvent the wheel all the time with how to integrate RPKI with their network operation. And finally, we think that there is a point for encouraging community knowledge sharing because networks do have this feeling a lot of the time of reinventing this wheel of even not only designing the tools that they need to integrate RPKI to their operation, but just only thinking about how to design those tools, thinking about when they are sure that now they can deploy RPKI and how they should be doing the testing and how to make sure that the whole system is prepared to integrate RPKI appropriately for their operation. So I encourage you to read our 2 papers that came out recently, and one in the Internet Measurement Conference and another one in a policy conference at TPRC that both were presented in the last 2 months. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cecilia, very much for the presentation and also to wake up very early for you. So I don't know if any questions. I don't see any in the chat, but maybe someone want to ask any question online, live. No questions? Well, Cecilia, thank you very much. This is a great presentation. It's a very good findings that you are doing in how we can improve the RPKI adoption. It's not going to be easy because some of those is like kind of difficult, as you said, organization that they decide that they don't want to do RPKI. So it's not like they are not unaware of it. It's like they decide that they cannot do it, or they for some reason they want not to do, and also the legacy space, and also the space that you have to assign. Is for us is kind of one of the problems, that we don't have a lot of space that is subassigned to Google, but it's one of the problems that you have, that you rely on a third party to create your ROAS, and sometimes that can be a difficult problem. I think there is a question a bit late, but to what extent? Okay, there is a question in the chat. It's a bit. To what extent do you think your finding also apply to ASPA? Can we expect the same challenge?
My view is that ROAS are paving the way for ASPA, like, because a lot of the challenges with ROAS that are not the understanding of exactly what ROAS you need to issue, but like all of this relationship with the account, with how you manage the keys, how you get used to managing your keys, and how when you're going to change that information and integrate it with your network operation. People, so networks would have already done that for ROA. So I think it's going to make it easier for ASPA. And something that I've seen in when I've interviewed the network of, and finally they like deployed RPKI, or they're in the process of deploying RPKI, I think even the ROAS and ROV force networks to be much more explicit about their intentions in how they manage the network, because they need to integrate RPKI with this. And I was like, okay, how are we going to handle this? Like, in which case we're going to modify the ROA, in which case we are going to issue this ROA or do this, and how is that relationship with our customer? So those questions that sometimes were not very explicit and could have been handled maybe by 1 or 2% saying, oh, I think this is a good idea, and then I'm going to do it. Now they need to become very, very explicit in the process of integrating with RPKI. So I think that effort of kind of maybe a more leaner or cleaner operation is also going to be helpful for ASPA. That is my positive view of, I really believe, and when I've seen the networks that have adopted RPKI, how their operation becomes much cleaner. It takes a while. It's like, and it requires effort, that's for sure. But for many networks, their operation is much cleaner after they adopted RPKI.
Thank you very much. Any other question? If not, thank you again, Cecilia, for the presentation.
Stop sharing.
So we can move to the next presentation, that is the MANRS Plus test bed, that is presented by Lisa Bruder and Moritz Müller. So Moritz and Lisa, the floor is yours.
Sorry that I interrupt. It's going to be unless Amreesh connects in the last minute, it's going to be the last presentation, because we have, so we can. Thank you. I will stop sharing screen now.
Yes, I will quickly share my screen. Okay, I will grant the privacy settings and then share my screen. I'll be right back. There we go.
Yes.
Sorry, it's we don't use Zoom that often, and then
I can share the feeling. Being a Google employee, I use the other tools, so this is kind of sometimes very difficult for me to try to look around all these things. So yeah, I
exactly.
understand.
But I hope I was able to figure it out quickly enough, and everyone's still there. Yes, so we're talking about the MANRS Plus testbed, or also our presentation is technically called Assessing the Feasibility of Routing Security Compliance Tests, but MANRS Plus testbed works. And quickly about us, we're both from SIDN, the Dutch domain registry, and we work at the labs team, which is the the research team of SIDN. And my colleague Moritz, who will also present the second part of this presentation, has been working there for 10 years, and I started there last year, and I currently focus mainly on BGP security topics, and this is one of the things that falls under this category for us. So let's get right into it. I don't know how familiar everyone in this call is with the MANRS Plus initiative and the working group, but the MANRS Plus control matrix was published somewhere this year, or finalized somewhere this year, and this is kind of the starting point for this project. This is kind of why we're talking about routing security compliance tests, and so there are several control domains in this matrix. One of them being routing security, which is what we focused on for this project. And then if you look more closely at the different points in this matrix, you will find several that are noted here as having to be measured. So there are 3 auditing levels that were defined: self-declared, measured, and audited. And we are specifically looking at the one that are defined here as measured, because of course we wanted to figure out how we can measure these. So this is kind of the starting point and the motivation for all of this. And from there on, the question kind of posed itself, or rather we were approached by MANRS to collaborate on this, to figure out how can we measure these controls that were defined for the matrix. And for this, we decided to start off with a feasibility study. So starting off in a local testbed, seeing if we can generally do this, and how it could potentially work. I already gave a quick glance that was not very readable from the MANRS Plus control matrix, but now I want to quickly introduce the actual 4 controls that we wanted to measure in our testbed. First one being route origin validation. So we want to make sure that an AS that we're testing probably does route origin validation, so filters out all invalid announcements and doesn't forward them to peers or customers. Secondly, we want to measure if the AS properly does prefix filtering of announcements from customers. So any announcement coming from a customer should be filtered based on a whitelist, for example, based on data from an IRR database. Thirdly, the third control is called control a set of customer ASs, but what this basically means is that we want the AS to filter out all announcements that are originated from an AS that is not its customer or in the customer cone. So for that, we also want to check if the AS properly uses, for example, an AS set from an IR database to filter their announcements and drop all announcements not originated from their customers. And lastly, we want to do filter bogons, so any announcement that is for a bogon prefix should not be forwarded to any other peers. So those were the controls, and now more specifically on the actual prototype. Everything you're going to see in a sec is based on containers, and we used Container Lab to orchestrate this. This makes it easier than with Docker Compose, for example, to set specific links between containers, which just makes the whole thing a bit more realistic for this specific use case. So we use Container Lab to configure this, and then for all the local ASs, we use Bird as a software router. And in the center of this whole prototype, we have the so-called connectivity provider AS, CPAS, which basically stands for one of these more enterprise customers. And a CPAS just provides connectivity to its customers by forwarding their routes to peers and transit providers, and also vice versa. And this is kind of the target group of the whole initiative, which is why I use this here as like the AS that needs to be tested in our prototype. Next to that, we have 2 MANRS Plus ASs that are called, in this case, the MANRS Plus Custom AS and the MANRS Plus Peer AS. And these should be treated by the tested AS, so the connectivity provider AS, as customer and peer respectively. So these peering sessions should be set up in the same way as a customer and peer session would be set up. And this is also what we did in this prototype when we configured it. Lastly, we have some supporting components that are only required in this prototype. And this is a local RPKI and a local IRR database. This just makes it easier for us when we're running like tests locally, that we don't have to tamper with any data in the global RPKI or in an IRR database that is actually used. We just have our own local setup. This just makes stuff quick and easy for us. Right, so based on this prototype, we scripted several tests for the different controls that I mentioned earlier. And I want to quickly walk you through one of the tests, in this case for prefix filtering, just to give an example of how such a script currently works. So first of all, we adapt the route object in the local IR database that we set up to disallow a certain prefix. We then enable an import filter at the connectivity provider AS configuration that in this case is based on a prefix list that we queried from our local IR database. So now in theory, this filter is activated and should filter out any announcement relating to this disallowed prefix. We then announce the prefix to the connectivity provider AS from our customer AS. And after that, the only thing left for us to do is to monitor the RIB of the peer AS. And if we don't see the prefix announced further to the peer AS, we in our script deem this test as passed. So this is one example of how we automated this test locally. And of course, you can do different combinations. So not enable the filter, and then you expect that it will be forwarded and stuff like that. Just to quickly recap before we move forward, this is all the prototype, and I want to quickly point out what the necessary things and components would be if you want to test an AS on the internet, because of course the CPAS that already exists, because that's what we want to test. The supporting components are also not required. So what we're kind of left with as this measurement infrastructure would be 2 MANRS Plus ASs, as well as one script orchestration software that does all the things like change objects in the RPKI and IRR, start the announcement of the prefix, stop the announcement of the prefix, as well as monitoring what happens at the PRS. So that would be kind of the main software that would be necessary to run this to test a AS on the internet. And I'm going to give the word to Moritz for the second part of the presentation.
Thank you, Lisa. So from our tests in our local testbed, we were able to reproduce, generate the tests in a reproducible manner. And from that, we were able to conclude that testing these controls in a testbed works. But of course, this is in a testbed. So we also thought a bit more about what things we have to keep in mind when deploying these kind of tests on the internet. And the first thing that we have to keep in mind is that RPKI and IR information does not propagate immediately on the internet. So in our testbed, we updated the RPKI, we updated the IR, and updated also the filters of the CPAS quite immediately, so within seconds. But of course, in reality, this takes several minutes. I guess for the RPKI, it takes an hour or so. I think a paper showed an IR information might propagate even slower, depending on how often the ASs update their filters. and regenerate the filters. So when performing these tests, these propagation delays need to be taken into account. Otherwise, you might not get good test results. Second, we also have to take into account that we want to audit multiple CPSs in the future, because hopefully MANRS Plus will take off and many people will want to participate. But in our local test bed, we only tested one CPS at once. However, if you want to test multiple CPS at once, then you also have to take into account that these ASs might share similar information with your MANRS Plus peer AS, depending on what kind of IP prefixes you're using. So it's very important to observe announcements that you receive at the PSS before path selection, for example, using protocols like BMP, so that you are 100% sure that the prefix announcement that you received is actually coming from the CPES that you're currently testing. And third, it is in theory possible, or it is possible, that test prefixes can propagate unintentionally. So in this case, the CPES might not have implemented a certain filter and might therefore propagate, for example, an invalid test prefix. Of course, this is a test prefix, so this prefix is not being used for any production services, but still we think it's good routing hygiene to withdraw the test prefixes as soon as possible. So as soon as you're sure that your test has passed or failed, withdraw the test prefix immediately. Also, you can use things like BGP communities if the CPS supports that, to maybe mark the test prefixes such that they are only being propagated to your peer AS of MANRS Plus. And finally, we also recommend a future MANRS Plus operator to document test resources such that also the research and operator community knows what's going on if they observe these weird announcements in route collectors or on their own router. That brings us to the next steps. We gave a similar presentation at the last RIPE meeting in Bucharest as well. We got some positive feedback on the whole test result, but people also said we have to be very aware of the location of the test ASs that we are going to use in the future. In our local testbed, we tested things like remote peering, and this did not negatively influence the tests. So in theory, this should be possible, but of course, it's very important to have CPSs at points where you can peer directly with the tested ASs, and if not, allow people to peer with your CPS, with your test ASs also remotely. So what's the next step? So we recommend to run the tests with the ASs with public prefixes. So with ASs that are actually available on the internet. And as we mentioned before, we only test a small set of controls. I think in total there are 20 controls or so. Not all of them are measurable, but they also include things like DDoS protection, routing information hygiene, and we also need to test whether this is something that we can test it automatically or not. We are not sure how we continue with this, so I think MANRS Plus and GCA was probably happy with people who want to continue with these tests in the future. Today, we also would like to take the opportunity to ask for feedback. So we would like to know from your operational experience, what else could hinder deployments of these tests that we had envisioned on the internet. Then we've developed this testbed, which is relatively specific to the MANRS Plus use case, but we envision that there might be a use case for other scenarios as well. So for example, for education purposes. So we're wondering if this tool that we developed and which is open source could also be handy for other people. And then, of course, we will be happy to hear any other feedback. And with that, that concludes our presentation. We've written a slightly extended blog post on our website, and we've also published a more extended version as a public report that you can find on our website, and I think also on the website of MANRS. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa and Moritz. We have one question in the chat from Cecilia. Is an ASN will be tested in only one router or multiple routers?
Yes, since we expect that we would only have 15 minutes for our presentation, I did not mention this, but this is something that is definitely something that we have to take into account. In our test bed, we only assume that one AS would have one router, which is of course not the case in reality. So this is definitely something that also a future operator of such a test needs to be taken into account. How can we make sure that we can test multiple routes at the same time? And how can we also make sure that we come to draw the right conclusions about whether filters are implemented or not? So, but that's a very good point, Cecilia.
Thank you. Any other question in the chat or online? If not, thank you very much, Moritz and Lisa, for your time for this presentation. It was great to see all this work, and thank you very much for presenting this with us at the MANRS community session. Alejandro, I think that we don't have any other presentation, so like we can.
No, Amreesh, I don't know what happened. I guess he had some incident, some issue. I contacted him, but he didn't reply. So we'll try to. I will share the post that because they published a post last July, I think, and this was the reason why I invited them. It's a collective post. So I'll share it now over the chat, but I don't know where they are. Maybe they can join for the West session. I don't know. I have not.
Okay. No problem. Thank you very much. I want to personally thank everybody to be here. For some people, some bit early, for some people very late, and some people in the middle of the night. So thank you very much for your time here. Also, a lot of thanks for Alejandro for presenting and also for preparing all the slides and contacting all the speakers for this presentation. Also, many thanks to Chan Queen Anne, Cecilia, Lisa, and Moritz for your presentation and your time presenting here. We really appreciated that, sharing all that knowledge and sharing your presentation with us and the community session for MANRS. Is everything for today. Remember, this is going to be, has been recorded, so it's going to be on YouTube and some other platforms. So please stay tuned and see you in the next community session. If you have time, you can join to the session in the afternoon for EMEA, or well, the morning for United States. If you don't have time, well, no problem. And thank you very much for everyone, and see you next time.